Marcus Chen stood by the tall glass doors of the Grandview Hotel. His black uniform was clean but old. The gold buttons were not as shiny as they used to be. His name tag was a little crooked, but he fixed it with care. He had been working as a doorman for 2 years now. Every day he opened doors for rich people who stayed at this fancy hotel. The morning sun made the hotel lobby look bright and golden. Marcus liked this time of day. The marble floors were clean and smooth. Fresh flowers sat on expensive tables. A beautiful old piano sat in the corner of the lobby. Nobody ever played it. It was just there to look nice. Marcus looked at his hands. They were strong hands, but they had small scars on them. Most people did not notice these scars. He kept his hands clean and neat. Sometimes, when nobody was looking, he would move his fingers like he was playing piano keys, but he never touched the real piano. At 10 in the morning, Marcus saw a black car pull up outside. It was a very expensive car. The driver got out and opened the back door. A woman stepped out. She wore a white dress that cost more money than Marcus made in 6 months. Her shoes were red and shiny. Her hair was perfect. Her name was Victoria Sterling. Victoria Sterling was 26 years old and very rich. Her family owned many companies. She was on the cover of business magazines. People said she was smart and beautiful, but also mean. She did not like poor people. She thought they were lazy. Victoria walked toward the hotel doors. Marcus opened the door for her with a smile. "Good morning, Miss Sterling. Welcome to the Grandview Hotel." Victoria did not look at him. She was talking on her phone. She was angry about something. "The traffic was terrible," she said into her phone. "I am late for my meeting because of these stupid cars everywhere." Marcus held the door open and waited. Victoria walked past him like he was not there. But then she stopped. She turned around and looked at Marcus with angry eyes. "You," she said, pointing at Marcus. "Why are you just standing there?" "Do something useful." Marcus was confused. "I am sorry, Miss Sterling. Is there something you need?" "I need the traffic to move faster. I need stupid people to get out of my way." "But I guess you cannot help with that, can you?" Victoria's voice was loud. Other people in the lobby started to look at them. Marcus kept his voice calm and polite. "I am sorry you had trouble with traffic today. Is there anything I can do to help make your day better?" Victoria laughed, but it was not a nice laugh. "Help make my day better? You are a doorman. You open doors. That is all you can do. That is all people like you can do." More people were watching now. Some were taking pictures with their phones. Victoria did not care. She was used to people watching her. "Look at you," Victoria said, walking closer to Marcus. "Your uniform is old. Your shoes are cheap. You probably live in a tiny apartment and eat cheap food. This is your life. Opening doors for people who are better than you." Marcus felt his face get hot, but he did not say anything back. He had learned to stay quiet when people were mean to him. But inside, his heart was beating fast. An old man in an expensive suit was watching from near the elevators. He shook his head and whispered to his wife, "That young woman has no class." But other rich people were not so kind. A woman with too much makeup laughed. "She is right, though. Some people just know their place in life." A man with a fat wallet sticking out of his pocket nodded. "Door opening is probably too hard for some people." Victoria heard them and smiled. She liked having an audience. "You know what is funny?" she said to Marcus. "People like you always think you have hidden talents. Like you are special inside, but the world just does not understand you." She walked over to the old piano in the corner. She put her hand on top of it. "See this piano? I bet you think you could play it. I bet you think you have some secret gift that nobody knows about." Marcus looked at the piano. His hands started to shake a little. He put them behind his back so nobody would see. "Well, here is what I think," Victoria said, her voice getting louder. "I think you are just a doorman. That is all you are. That is all you will ever be." She turned to face all the people who were watching. More people had come to see what was happening. Some were hotel guests. Some were people who worked at the hotel. Everyone had their phones out now. "I will make you a deal," Victoria announced. "If you can play something good on this piano, something really good, I will marry you. That is how sure I am that you have no talent at all." The lobby got very quiet. Everyone stared at Marcus. Some people started to whisper to each other. "But you cannot play, can you?" Victoria continued. "Because people like you do not have real talents. You just have simple jobs for simple people." Marcus looked at the piano again. It was a beautiful piano. It was old but well taken care of. He could see the black and white keys clearly. His fingers wanted to touch those keys, but he was scared. "What is wrong?" Victoria asked with a mean smile. "Cat got your tongue? Or are you finally ready to admit that you are just what you appear to be? A nobody who opens doors?" A young woman who worked at the front desk felt sorry for Marcus. Her name was Sarah, and she was Marcus's friend. She wanted to say something to help him, but she did not want to lose her job. An older woman with white hair spoke up from the crowd. "This is not right. Leave the young man alone," but Victoria ignored her. "No, this is perfect. Everyone should see this. Everyone should understand that some people are born to serve, and some people are born to lead. Some people open doors and some people walk through them." She pointed at Marcus again. "So what will it be? Are you going to play this piano and prove me wrong? Or are you going to admit that I am right about you?" Marcus felt like everyone in the world was looking at him. His hands were shaking more now. He thought about his old life when things were different. He thought about his parents. He thought about all the things he had lost. The piano seemed to call to him. But he was afraid. What if his hands did not work anymore? What if he had forgotten how to play? What if Victoria was right about him? "I thought so," Victoria said when Marcus did not answer right away. Just another person with big dreams and no talent to back them up. She started to walk toward the elevators, thinking she had won. But then Marcus spoke. "Wait," he said quietly. Victoria turned around with a surprised look on her face. Marcus looked at the piano one more time. Then he looked at all the people watching him. Then he looked at Victoria. "I will play," he said. Marcus Chen was not always a doorman. 3 years ago, his life was very different. He lived in a small apartment with his parents, David and Lin Chen. They had come to America from China when Marcus was just a baby. They worked very hard to give their son a good life. David Chen worked at a restaurant during the day and cleaned offices at night. Lin Chen worked at a clothing store and also cleaned houses on weekends. They were always tired, but they never complained. All their hard work was for Marcus. When Marcus was 5 years old, his mother noticed something special about him. They had an old keyboard in their apartment. It was cheap and some keys did not work well. But Marcus would sit at that keyboard for hours. He would press the keys and make beautiful sounds. He did not know how to read music, but he could play songs just by listening to them on the radio. "This boy has a gift," Lynn told her husband. "We must help him use this gift." David was worried. Music lessons cost too much money. "We cannot afford it," but Lynn had an idea. She got a second job working at a music store. The owner of the store, Mrs. Rodriguez, was a kind woman. She saw how much Lynn wanted to help her son. "Bring the boy here after school," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "He can help me clean the store and I will teach him piano for free." Marcus was 7 when he started learning piano properly. Mrs. Rodriguez was a good teacher, but she quickly saw that Marcus was better than most students she had taught. "This child needs a real piano teacher," she told Lynn. "He needs someone who can teach him advanced music." Lynn and David worked even more hours to save money for better piano lessons. They ate cheap food and wore old clothes. They never bought anything for themselves. All their money went to Marcus's music education. When Marcus was 10, he played in his first piano competition. He was the youngest player there. The other children had expensive clothes and parents who spoke perfect English. Marcus wore his best shirt, but it was still old and plain. His parents sat in the back row and watched with nervous faces. Marcus sat at the big black piano on the stage. His feet could barely reach the pedals. But when he started to play, something magical happened. The music that came from his fingers was perfect. Every note was clear and strong. The judges stopped writing and just listened. Marcus won first place that day. His parents cried happy tears. The local newspaper wrote a story about him. They called him the piano boy and a young genius. More competitions followed. Marcus won them all. Rich families started to notice him. Music teachers from big schools called his parents. Everyone wanted to help Marcus become a great pianist. When Marcus was 14, he got a full scholarship to attend a special music school in New York. It was far from home, but it was the best school for music in the country. His parents were proud but scared. They had never been away from their son for so long. At the music school, Marcus worked harder than ever. He practiced piano 8 hours every day. His teacher said he was the most talented student they had ever seen. "This boy will play in the greatest concert halls in the world," they said. Marcus made friends at the school, but he was different from them. Most of the other students came from rich families. They had parents who were doctors or lawyers or business owners. Marcus's parents still cleaned offices and worked in restaurants, but Marcus did not care about being different. He only cared about music. When he played piano, nothing else mattered. The world disappeared. There was only him and the beautiful sounds he could make. When Marcus was 18, he won the biggest piano competition in the country. Famous musicians came to hear him play. Record companies wanted to sign contracts with him. Concert halls wanted to book him for shows. His future was bright and full of promise. That same year, Marcus got accepted to the best music college in America, Juilliard School in New York City. It was like a dream come true. His parents were so proud they could hardly speak. "Our son will be a great artist," David told his friends. "All our hard work was worth it." Marcus studied at Juilliard for 4 years. He learned from the best piano teachers in the world. He played with famous orchestras. Music critics wrote good things about him in newspapers and magazines. Everyone said he was going to be one of the greatest pianists of his generation. After college, Marcus started his professional career. He played concerts in beautiful halls across America and Europe. People paid lots of money to hear him play. His parents finally stopped working so hard. Marcus bought them a nice house and made sure they had everything they needed. For 3 years, Marcus lived his dream. He recorded albums. He won awards. He played with the best orchestras in the world. Young piano students wanted to be just like him. His parents watched him on television and felt proud. But then everything changed on one rainy night in November. Marcus was driving home from a concert in Boston. It had been a wonderful show. The audience loved his performance. He was thinking about his next concert when he saw the bright lights coming toward him. The other driver had been drinking too much alcohol. His car crossed into Marcus's lane at high speed. Marcus tried to turn away, but it was too late. The 2 cars crashed with a terrible sound of breaking glass and twisted metal. When Marcus woke up 3 days later in the hospital, his parents were holding his hands and crying. Both of them had bandages on their faces and arms. His mother's left arm was in a cast. "Thank God you are alive," his father whispered. Marcus tried to move his hands, but something was wrong. His fingers felt strange and numb. There were bandages covering both his hands and arms. He could see metal pins sticking out of his fingers. "The doctors say your hands were badly hurt," his mother explained through her tears. "But they fixed them. You will be okay," but Marcus was not okay. The doctors had done their best to repair his broken bones and torn muscles, but the damage was severe. For months, Marcus could not move his fingers properly. Simple things like holding a cup or writing his name were painful and difficult. The worst part was not being able to play piano. Marcus tried many times, but his fingers would not obey his mind. They were stiff and slow. The beautiful music that once flowed from his hands was gone. Physical therapy helped a little. Slowly, Marcus learned to use his hands for everyday tasks again, but playing piano at a professional level seemed impossible. The doctor said the nerve damage might be permanent. Marcus's world fell apart. Concert halls canceled his bookings. His recording company ended his contract. Music students stopped asking for lessons. The boy who was supposed to be one of the greatest pianists in the world could barely play simple songs. The medical bills were enormous. Marcus's family had saved some money, but it was not enough. They had to sell their nice house and move back to a small apartment. His parents went back to working long hours just to pay for his continued treatment. Marcus fell into a deep sadness. He stayed in his room for months, refusing to see friends or even look at a piano. The hands that once created beautiful music now felt like broken tools. After a year of feeling sorry for himself, Marcus knew he had to do something. His parents were getting older and working too hard. He needed to help support the family, even if he could not play piano anymore. That was when he found the job at the Grandview Hotel. It was simple work, but it was honest work. He could open doors and help guests carry their bags. His damaged hands could still do these basic tasks. For 2 years, Marcus worked as a doorman. He told nobody about his past as a famous pianist. He was just Marcus the doorman, polite and quiet, opening doors for rich people who looked right through him. But late at night, when he was alone in his small apartment, Marcus would sometimes move his fingers like he was playing piano. The music was still in his head and his heart, even if his hands could not play it anymore. He wondered if he would ever touch piano keys again. He never imagined that a cruel woman named Victoria Sterling would force him to find out. After Marcus said he would play, Victoria Sterling laughed. It was not a nice laugh. It was the kind of laugh people make when they think something is very funny but also very stupid. "Oh, this is perfect," Victoria said, clapping her hands together. "Everyone, did you hear that? The doorman thinks he can actually play piano." More people gathered in the hotel lobby. Some were guests who had heard the noise and came to see what was happening. Others were hotel workers who were supposed to be doing their jobs but could not stay away from the drama. Everyone had their phones out recording everything. Sarah Martinez worked at the front desk of the hotel. She was Marcus's best friend at work. They ate lunch together every day and talked about movies and books. Sarah knew Marcus was different from other people, but she did not know about his past as a famous pianist. Sarah pushed through the crowd to stand near Marcus. "You don't have to do this," she whispered to him. "Just walk away. This woman is crazy." But Marcus shook his head. "It's okay, Sarah, I want to do this." Sarah was confused. She had never seen Marcus touch the lobby piano. In fact, she had never heard him talk about music at all. "Marcus, are you sure? What if you can't play? She will make fun of you even more." Marcus looked at his friend with sad but determined eyes. "I used to play piano, Sarah, a long time ago." Before Sarah could ask more questions, Victoria spoke again. Her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced like she was on a stage, "we are about to witness something very entertaining. This doorman believes he has musical talent. He thinks he can prove me wrong by playing our little lobby piano." An old woman with expensive jewelry stepped forward. "Young lady, this is enough. Leave the poor man alone." But Victoria ignored her. "No, this is educational. Everyone should see what happens when people reach beyond their abilities, when they try to be something they are not." A man in a business suit was recording everything on his phone. "This is going to be all over social media," he said to his wife. "Millionaire challenges doorman to play piano." "This is gold." His wife looked uncomfortable. "Maybe we should not record this. It feels wrong," but the man kept recording. Other people were doing the same thing. Soon dozens of phones were pointed at Marcus and Victoria. Victoria walked closer to the piano and put her hand on it again. "This piano probably cost more money than you make in 5 years, she told Marcus. "It's a beautiful instrument. It deserves to be played by someone who actually knows what they are doing." She turned to face the crowd again. "I learned to play piano when I was a child. I had the best teachers money could buy. I played in school concerts and won some competitions. But I was smart enough to know that I was not good enough to be a professional musician. I accepted my limitations and focused on business instead." Victoria pointed at Marcus. "But some people cannot accept their limitations. They live in fantasy worlds where they think they are special, where they think they have hidden talents that the world just has not discovered yet." A young man with a camera started asking Victoria questions. "Miss Sterling, are you really going to marry this man if he can play well?" Victoria's smile became even more cruel. "Of course not. Because he cannot play well. That is my point. I am safe making this promise because it is impossible for him to keep his side of the bargain." The young man then turned his camera to Marcus. "And you, sir, what do you say to that?" Marcus was not used to being on camera or having so many people pay attention to him. His voice was quiet when he spoke. "I just want to play some music, but why?" Another person shouted from the crowd. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus thought about the question. Why was he doing this? Was it because Victoria had been so mean to him? Was it because he was tired of people looking down on him? Or was it because he missed music so much that he was willing to risk embarrassing himself just to touch piano keys again? "Because music is beautiful," Marcus said simply. "And everyone deserves to hear beautiful things." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Save the poetry for someone who cares. Are you going to play or not?" Marcus walked toward the piano. Each step felt heavy. His heart was beating so fast he thought other people might hear it. When he reached the piano bench, he stopped and looked at the keys. The piano was indeed beautiful. It was a black grand piano with ivory keys that were smooth and clean. Marcus could see his reflection in the shiny surface. He looked scared. "Having second thoughts?" Victoria asked. "It is not too late to admit that you cannot do this." Marcus sat down on the piano bench. It was the right height. His feet could reach the pedals easily. He placed his hands just above the keys but did not touch them yet. Sarah pushed closer to the front of the crowd. She was worried about her friend. She had never seen him look so nervous. "Whatever happens," Sarah called out to Marcus, "I believe in you." Marcus smiled at her. It was the first real smile he had shown since Victoria Sterling walked into the hotel that morning. An older gentleman in the crowd recognized something familiar about Marcus. He whispered to his wife, "That young man looks familiar. I feel like I have seen him somewhere before." His wife squinted at Marcus. Maybe he looks like someone famous. But they could not remember where they might have seen Marcus before. Victoria checked her expensive watch. "I have a business meeting in 30 minutes. If you are going to do this, do it now." Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought about his parents and how proud they used to be when he played piano. He thought about all the hours he had practiced as a child. He thought about the music that still lived in his heart, even though his hands were broken. When he opened his eyes, he looked directly at Victoria. "What kind of music would you like me to play?" Victoria was surprised by the question. She had expected Marcus to be more nervous, maybe to back down from the challenge. But he seemed calmer now, more confident. "I don't care," she said. "Play whatever you want. It will not matter because you cannot really play." "Actually," said the old gentleman who thought Marcus looked familiar, "if the young man is going to play, let him choose something he knows well." "That would be more fair," Victoria shrugged. "Fine, play whatever makes you happy. Just remember our deal. If you can actually play something good, something that proves you have real talent, I will marry you. But when you fail, I want you to admit in front of everyone that I was right about you." Marcus nodded. "I understand." He placed his fingers on the keys. They felt cold at first, but then familiar, like greeting an old friend after a long time apart. The scars on his hands were still there. His fingers were not as flexible as they used to be, but the love for music was still strong inside him. "I am going to play a piece by Chopin," Marcus announced. "It is called Ballade No. 1. The old gentleman's eyes got wide. He grabbed his wife's arm. "I remember now," he whispered urgently. "I know who that is." But before he could say anything more, Marcus pressed the first keys. The sound that came from the piano was soft and gentle, like water flowing over smooth stones. Marcus played the opening melody slowly, testing his fingers, remembering how the music was supposed to feel. Victoria had expected him to play badly from the very first note. She was ready to laugh and point out his mistakes. But the music that filled the lobby was not bad at all. It was beautiful. The crowd grew quiet. People stopped talking and just listened. Even the hotel workers who were supposed to be busy with other tasks stopped what they were doing to hear the music. Marcus's fingers moved across the keys with growing confidence. The song he was playing was very difficult, requiring both technical skill and deep emotional understanding. But Marcus was not just playing the notes correctly. He was telling a story with the music. Victoria's smile began to fade. This was not what she had expected at all. Marcus's fingers found their rhythm on the piano keys. At first, his hands felt stiff and uncertain. 3 years had passed since he last played a real piano. His damaged fingers had to remember how to move in ways they had not moved for so long. The opening of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 was gentle and questioning, like someone asking a very important question. Marcus played these first notes carefully. Each finger had to stretch and bend in ways that caused small amounts of pain, but he pushed through it. Victoria Sterling stood with her arms crossed, still expecting Marcus to fail. She had learned piano as a child and knew this piece was extremely difficult. Even good piano players struggled with it. She was sure Marcus would make mistakes soon and prove her point about people knowing their place in life. But as Marcus continued to play, something magical started to happen. His muscle memory began to wake up. His fingers remembered the patterns they had practiced thousands of times when he was younger. The music started to flow more naturally. The lobby of the Grandview Hotel had excellent acoustics. The high ceiling and marble floors made every note clear and pure. The sound of the piano filled the space beautifully. People who had been talking and laughing grew quiet to listen. Sarah Martinez watched her friend with amazement. She had known Marcus for 2 years, and he had never mentioned that he could play piano. She had no idea he had this incredible talent hidden inside him. As she listened to the beautiful music, she started to understand that there was much more to Marcus than she had realized. The old gentleman who thought Marcus looked familiar moved closer to the piano. His name was Professor Williams, and he had taught music at the university for 30 years before retiring. He knew good piano playing when he heard it, And what Marcus was doing was not just good, it was exceptional. "My dear," Professor Williams whispered to his wife, "this young man is not just playing the notes. He understands this music deeply. Listen to how he shapes each phrase." His wife nodded. She did not know as much about classical music as her husband, but even she could tell that something special was happening. The music made her feel emotions she had not felt in years. As Marcus moved into the more complex sections of the piece, his confidence grew stronger. His fingers, despite their scars and stiffness, began to remember what it felt like to dance across the keys. The pain in his hands was still there, but the joy of making music was stronger than the pain. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 tells a story without words. It begins quietly, then builds to moments of great passion and drama, then becomes gentle again. Marcus played each section with deep understanding. When the music called for power, his hands found strength they had not used in 3 years. When it called for tenderness, his touch became as soft as a whisper. Victoria's expression began to change. The smug smile disappeared from her face. Her arms uncrossed. She had expected to laugh at Marcus's failure, but instead she found herself listening to some of the most beautiful piano playing she had ever heard. A woman in the crowd started to cry. The music reminded her of her father, who had played piano for her when she was a child. A businessman who had been checking his phone put the device away and just listened. Even the hotel workers, who were supposed to be busy with other tasks, stopped what they were doing. Marcus reached the most difficult part of the piece, a section where both hands must play very fast, complicated patterns while still maintaining the musical expression. This was the part where many professional pianists made mistakes. Victoria was sure he would fail here, but Marcus's years of training took over. His hands moved with precision and grace, playing notes so quickly they sounded like water rushing over rocks in a stream. Every note was clear and perfect. The music built to a climax that was both powerful and beautiful. Professor Williams gripped his wife's hand. "I remember now," he whispered urgently. "I know who this is. That is Marcus Chen, the pianist. He was famous a few years ago. Then he disappeared from the music world. I wondered what happened to him." His wife looked surprised. "You mean he is a real professional musician?" "He was one of the most promising young pianists in the country," Professor Williams explained. "He played with the best orchestras. I saw him perform at Carnegie Hall when he was just 22 years old. He was magnificent." As Marcus played, memories flooded back to him. He remembered the feeling of performing on stage in front of thousands of people. He remembered the applause and the standing ovations. He remembered his parents sitting in the front row with tears of pride in their eyes, but he also remembered the accident. The pain. The months of not being able to move his fingers properly. The crushing disappointment of losing everything he had worked for his entire life. All of these emotions flowed through his fingers into the music. The Chopin piece became not just a demonstration of technical skill, but a story of loss, struggle, and hope. Everyone listening could feel these emotions, even if they did not understand exactly what Marcus had been through. The music moved toward its conclusion. Marcus played the final sections with the maturity and depth that had not been there in his younger days. Suffering had taught him things about life that made his music more meaningful. Each note carried weight and truth. Victoria Sterling found herself completely absorbed in the performance. She had intended to humiliate Marcus, to prove that people should stay in their assigned places in society. But instead, she was witnessing something that challenged everything she believed about talent and worth. The hotel lobby was completely silent except for the sound of the piano. People who had been recording with their phones forgot about their devices and just listened. The music was too beautiful and too powerful to experience through a small screen. As Marcus played the final phrases of the piece, his hands found a kind of peace they had not known since before the accident. The music was not just coming from his fingers, it was coming from his heart, his soul, his entire being. For these few minutes, he was not Marcus the doorman. He was Marcus the musician again. The last notes of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 rang out in the hotel lobby, and then faded into silence. Marcus lifted his hands from the keys and sat very still. His fingers were shaking slightly from the effort and the emotion, but his face was calm and satisfied. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence was complete. Then slowly one person started to clap, then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire lobby erupted in applause. People were not just clapping politely, they were cheering, whistling, and shouting with appreciation. "Bravo," called Professor Williams. "Magnificent." Sarah Martinez was crying and clapping at the same time. "Marcus," she said, though he probably could not hear her over the noise. "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard." The applause went on and on. People did not want to stop showing their appreciation for what they had just experienced. Some were taking pictures of Marcus now, but not to make fun of him. They wanted to remember this moment. Marcus stood up from the piano bench and turned to face the crowd. His face was flushed and his eyes were bright. For the first time in 3 years, he looked truly happy. But when he looked at Victoria Sterling, he saw something he had not expected. She was not laughing or making fun of him. She was staring at him with a look of complete shock and something that might have been respect. Victoria's mouth was slightly open. Her perfect confidence was gone. For the first time in her life, she had been completely wrong about someone. And everyone in the lobby and everyone who would see the videos online knew it. The applause in the hotel lobby continued for several minutes. People did not want to stop clapping. What they had just heard was not the kind of piano playing you might hear at a hotel bar or a wedding party. This was professional-level music, the kind you would expect to hear in the world's greatest concert halls. Victoria Sterling stood frozen in place. She had never been so shocked in her entire life. Her cruel joke had backfired completely. The doorman she had tried to humiliate had just given one of the most beautiful musical performances she had ever witnessed. Professor Williams pushed through the crowd toward Marcus. His face was excited and amazed. "Young man," he said, reaching out to shake Marcus's hand. "That was extraordinary. Simply extraordinary." Marcus was still feeling emotional from the performance. His hands were shaking slightly as he shook the professor's hand. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Do you mind if I ask," Professor Williams continued, "where did you study music? Who were your teachers?" Before Marcus could answer, the professor's wife joined them. She had been thinking during the performance and suddenly remembered something important. "Harold," she said to her husband, using his first name. "Doesn't he look like that young pianist we saw at Carnegie Hall a few years ago? The one who played with the New York Philharmonic?" Professor Williams studied Marcus's face more carefully. Recognition dawned in his eyes. "My goodness," he said slowly. "You are Marcus Chen, aren't you? The Marcus Chen who won the international piano competition when you were 21? Marcus nodded, feeling uncomfortable with all the attention. "That was a long time ago," he said. "A long time ago?" Professor Williams exclaimed. "Young man, you were one of the most promising pianists of your generation. What happened to you? Why did you disappear from the music world?" Sarah Martinez was listening to this conversation with growing amazement. Her friend Marcus, the quiet doorman who opened doors and carried suitcases, had been a famous musician? She could hardly believe it. A woman in the crowd overheard Professor Williams and gasped. She pulled out her phone and quickly searched for information about Marcus Chen. Within moments, she found old articles and photos. "Look," she called out, showing her phone screen to anyone who would look. "Here he is in a newspaper article from 4 years ago. Rising star Marcus Chen performs with London Symphony Orchestra." More people gathered around to see the phone. They looked back and forth between the old photos and Marcus standing by the piano. It was definitely the same person, though he looked older now and more tired. "There are videos of him on the internet," another person said, scrolling through his phone. "He played all over the world. Look at this headline. Young American pianist takes Europe by storm." Victoria Sterling listened to all of this with growing horror. Not only had she been completely wrong about Marcus's talent, but she had publicly humiliated a genuinely famous musician. Someone who had performed in the world's most prestigious concert halls. Someone who was infinitely more accomplished than she was. A young woman who worked as a music journalist for a local newspaper had been in the hotel lobby when the whole incident began. She had recorded everything on her phone, and now she realized she had captured something that would be very newsworthy. "Mr. Chen," she said, approaching Marcus with her phone still recording. "Can you tell us what happened to your career? Why are you working as a doorman instead of performing?" Marcus looked uncomfortable. He had never talked publicly about the accident or what happened afterward. But with all these people staring at him, waiting for an answer, he felt he had to say something. "I was in a car accident 3 years ago," Marcus said simply. My hands were badly injured. I couldn't play professionally anymore, so I found other work. The journalist pressed for more details. But you just played beautifully. Your hands seem fine now. Marcus looked down at his hands. The scars were still visible if you looked closely. They are better than they were, he admitted. But not good enough for professional concerts. What you just heard took everything I had. My fingers still hurt, and they are not as fast or as strong as they used to be. Professor Williams shook his head in disagreement. Young man, what I just heard was magnificent. Your technique may have changed, but your musical understanding has deepened. You played with more maturity and emotion than many pianists who have been performing for decades. Sarah Martinez finally found her voice. Marcus, she said, why didn't you ever tell me? We have been friends for 2 years, and you never mentioned that you used to be a famous musician. Marcus looked at his friend with sad eyes. Because I am not that person anymore, Sarah. That life is over. I'm just a doorman now. No, Professor Williams said firmly. A person with your talent is never just anything. Music like what we just heard cannot be hidden or ignored. It demands to be shared with the world. During all of this conversation, Victoria Sterling had been standing to the side, forgotten by most of the crowd. She was experiencing emotions she had never felt before. Shame, embarrassment, and something else she could not quite identify. A kind of admiration for Marcus that she had never expected to feel for anyone, especially someone she had considered beneath her. An older businessman who had been taking video of everything approached Victoria. Miss Sterling, he said, do you have any comment about what just happened? You made quite a challenge to this young man. Victoria's mouth felt dry. She knew that videos of this whole incident were probably already spreading across social media. Her cruel words to Marcus, followed by his incredible performance, would make her look terrible. Her reputation, which she had spent years building, was about to be destroyed by her own arrogance. She began, then stopped. What could she say? How could she explain her behavior? Marcus noticed Victoria standing alone and looking distressed. Despite everything she had said to him, he felt sorry for her. He walked over to where she was standing. Miss Sterling, he said gently. Are you all right? Victoria looked up at him with surprise. After how badly she had treated him, she had not expected kindness. I don't understand, she said quietly. Why are you being nice to me? I was horrible to you. Marcus considered her question carefully. Because music teaches you that everyone deserves compassion, he said. Even people who are cruel sometimes act that way because they are hurt or scared inside. Victoria felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She had built her whole life around being tough and superior to others, but Marcus's simple kindness was breaking down walls she had spent years building. I was wrong about you, she whispered. I was wrong about everything. The crowd around them was still buzzing with excitement about the performance and the revelation of Marcus's identity. People were sharing videos and articles about him on their phones. The story was already starting to spread beyond the hotel lobby. Sarah Martinez approached Marcus and Victoria. Marcus, she said, there are reporters here now. They want to interview you about your performance and your past career. Marcus looked around the lobby. Indeed, more people had arrived. Some had cameras and microphones. Word was spreading quickly about what had happened at the Grandview Hotel. I don't think I want to talk to reporters, Marcus said. I just wanted to play some music. But Professor Williams had a different idea. Marcus, you cannot hide your talent anymore. What happened here today proves that your gift is still strong, even after your accident. The world needs to know that you are ready to return to music. Victoria Sterling listened to this conversation and realized something important. Her cruel challenge had actually done Marcus a favor. It had forced him to discover that his hands could still create beautiful music. Her attempt to humiliate him had instead revealed that his career as a pianist was not over after all. He is right, Victoria said suddenly. Everyone looked at her in surprise. You should not hide your talent. What you just played was the most beautiful music I have ever heard. Marcus stared at her. But what about your challenge? What about our deal? Victoria's face turned red with embarrassment. I never expected you to actually be able to play, she admitted. My challenge was meant to be cruel and impossible. I never thought about what would happen if you could really do it. The crowd grew quiet, waiting to hear what Victoria would say next. Everyone remembered her promise to marry Marcus if he could play well. Victoria took a deep breath. I made a promise in front of all these people, she said. But it was a promise made in anger and arrogance. I don't think anyone should have to honor promises made with cruel intentions. She turned to face Marcus directly. But I do owe you something. I owe you an apology, and I owe you whatever help I can give to restore your music career. Marcus was surprised by her offer. You don't owe me anything, he said. Yes, I do, Victoria insisted. I tried to destroy you today, but instead I helped reveal something wonderful. Let me try to make up for my terrible behavior. The journalist who had been recording everything stepped closer. This is an amazing story, she said. A famous pianist working as a doorman, challenged by a wealthy socialite, proves his talent is still intact. This is going to be international news. Professor Williams nodded enthusiastically. Marcus, you must consider returning to professional performance. The classical music world needs artists like you. The next morning, Victoria Sterling woke up in her expensive penthouse apartment to find her phone buzzing with hundreds of notifications. Text messages, missed calls, emails, and social media alerts filled her screen. The incident at the Grandview Hotel had become viral overnight. Victoria sat up in her silk pajamas and began reading the messages. Her business manager was frantic. Victoria, we need to talk immediately. The videos are everywhere. Her publicist had sent 17 urgent emails. Crisis management needed now. Even her mother, who lived in Europe and rarely called, had left worried voicemails. Victoria turned on her television and found herself watching her own cruel words being replayed on the morning news. The video showed her mocking Marcus, making her heartless challenge and then standing in shocked silence as he played beautifully. The news anchors were not kind in their commentary. Wealthy heiress Victoria Sterling learned a hard lesson about judging people, said one anchor. Her attempt to humiliate a hotel doorman backfired spectacularly when he turned out to be a world-class pianist. The other anchor nodded. The question everyone is asking now is whether Miss Sterling will honor her promise to marry this talented young man. Victoria turned off the television and put her head in her hands. She had built her reputation as a successful businesswoman over many years. Now one moment of cruelty might destroy everything she had worked for. Her phone rang. It was her business advisor, Robert Chen. No relation to Marcus, despite sharing the same last name. Victoria, Robert said without any greeting. We have a serious problem. The board of directors at Sterling Industries is meeting this afternoon to discuss your behavior yesterday. Some of them are questioning whether you should remain as CEO. Victoria felt her stomach drop. Sterling Industries was her family's company, but she had worked hard to prove she deserved to lead it. If the board lost confidence in her leadership abilities, she could lose everything. What do you recommend? Victoria asked. You have two choices, Robert explained. Either you honor your promise and somehow make this marriage arrangement work, or you find a way to apologize that convinces the public you have changed. Both options have serious risks. After hanging up with Robert, Victoria tried to eat breakfast, but she had no appetite. She kept thinking about Marcus's performance the day before. She had expected him to fail and prove her point about people staying in their place. Instead, he had shown her that she knew nothing about real talent or real worth. Meanwhile, across town in his small apartment, Marcus was having his own difficult morning. He had barely slept. His hands were sore from playing piano for the first time in 3 years, but it was a good kind of soreness. It reminded him of how his fingers used to feel after long practice sessions when he was young. Marcus's phone was also buzzing with messages, though not as many as Victoria's. Sarah from the hotel had texted him several times. Are you okay? This is crazy. Professor Williams had called twice, wanting to discuss Marcus's future in music. Even his old music teacher from New York had somehow found his number and left a voicemail. But the call Marcus was most nervous about came from his landlord. Marcus, the man said, I've been getting calls from reporters all morning. They want to interview you and they're willing to pay me for information about you. I told them I don't talk about my tenants, but this is getting out of hand. Marcus realized his quiet life was truly over. He had been anonymous for 3 years, just another face in the city. Now everyone would know who he was and what had happened to him. There was a knock at his apartment door. When Marcus opened it, he found Sarah holding a bag of coffee and pastries from the bakery down the street. I thought you might need breakfast and someone to talk to, Sarah said with a concerned smile. They sat at Marcus's small kitchen table and ate in relative silence for a while. Finally, Sarah spoke. Why didn't you ever tell me about your past? She asked gently. We've been friends for 2 years. I thought I knew you. Marcus stirred his coffee thoughtfully. Because that person, the famous pianist, he died in the car accident. I became someone else after that. Someone simpler. But you're still the same person inside, Sarah insisted. Your talent didn't die. We all heard it yesterday. My talent is damaged, Marcus replied. What you heard yesterday was the best I can do now, and it took everything I had. I can't perform like that regularly. My hands still hurt and they get tired quickly. Sarah reached across the table and touched one of Marcus's scarred hands. Maybe you can't perform exactly like you used to, but maybe that's not what matters. Maybe what matters is that you can still create beautiful music. While Marcus and Sarah talked, Victoria was meeting with her team of advisors in her office high above the city. The room was elegant and expensive, with floor-to-ceiling windows and modern art on the walls. But Victoria felt smaller than she had ever felt in her life. The situation is complex, her lawyer explained. Legally, no one can force you to marry someone based on a casual statement made in anger. But the public relations damage could be severe if you simply ignore what happened. Her publicist, a sharp woman named Jennifer, was reviewing social media reactions on her tablet. The response is mixed, Jennifer said. Some people think Victoria was just joking and shouldn't have to honor the promise. But many others are calling her cruel and elitist. The story is trending worldwide. Victoria looked out the window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably dealing with his own version of this chaos. She wondered how he was handling the sudden attention. I want to meet with him, Victoria said suddenly. Everyone in the room looked surprised. Meet with who? Robert asked. With Marcus Chen. I want to talk to him privately, away from cameras and reporters. I need to understand what he wants from all this. Jennifer shook her head firmly. That's a terrible idea. Any private meeting could be misinterpreted. People might think you're planning to actually marry him, or they might think you're trying to pay him off to stay quiet. But Victoria had made up her mind. I don't care what people might think. I behaved terribly yesterday and I owe him a real apology. Not a public relations apology, but a real one. That afternoon, Victoria's assistant called the Grandview Hotel and asked to speak with Marcus. When Marcus came to the phone, he was surprised to hear Victoria's voice. Marcus, Victoria said, I know this is strange, but I would like to meet with you privately. Not for cameras or reporters, just to talk. Would you be willing to do that? Marcus thought for a moment. Why do you want to meet? Because I need to apologize to you properly, Victoria said. And because I think we both need to figure out how to move forward from yesterday. They agreed to meet at a small, quiet restaurant far from downtown, where they were less likely to be recognized. Victoria arrived first and chose a corner table where they could talk without being overheard. When Marcus walked into the restaurant, he looked different than he had the day before. He was wearing regular clothes instead of his doorman uniform, jeans and a simple button-down shirt. He looked younger and more relaxed, though still tired. Thank you for coming, Victoria said as Marcus sat down across from her. They ordered coffee and sat in awkward silence for a few moments. Finally, Victoria spoke. I want you to know that I have been thinking about what happened yesterday ever since it ended, she said. I cannot stop thinking about how cruel I was to you. Marcus studied her face. She looked genuinely upset, not like the confident, arrogant woman from the hotel lobby. I also cannot stop thinking about your music, Victoria continued. It was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. I had no idea that someone with such incredible talent was working as a doorman. Why does that matter? Marcus asked. Do you think talented people are worth more than other people? Victoria was quiet for a long time, considering his question. I used to think that, she admitted. I used to believe that successful people deserved more respect than unsuccessful people. But you have made me question everything I believed about worth and talent and success. Marcus sipped his coffee. Money and fame don't make someone more valuable as a human being, he said. I learned that when I lost both of those things. I am the same person whether I am playing Carnegie Hall or opening doors at a hotel. But you're not just opening doors at a hotel, Victoria protested. You have this incredible gift.
Why are you hiding it?
Marcus looked sad. Because gifts can be taken away. I worked my whole life to become a professional musician, and then it was all gone in one night. I don't know if I can handle losing it again. Victoria realized something important. Marcus was afraid, not of playing music, but of hoping for too much and being disappointed again. What if you didn't have to risk everything? Victoria asked. What if you could return to music gradually on your own terms? Marcus looked curious but cautious. What do you mean? Victoria leaned forward. I mean, what if someone helped you? Someone who has resources and connections in the entertainment world? Someone who owes you a debt because of her terrible behavior? You want to help me restart my music career? Marcus asked with surprise. Yes, Victoria said firmly, but not because of my stupid promise yesterday. Because the world deserves to hear your music, and because helping you would be the first truly meaningful thing I have done with my wealth. Over the next few weeks, Victoria and Marcus met several more times. What started as an apology and business discussion slowly became something neither of them had expected, a genuine friendship. Their second meeting was at Victoria's office. She had wanted to show Marcus what she meant when she offered to help his career. Her office took up an entire floor of a glass skyscraper with views of the whole city. Marcus felt out of place among the expensive furniture and modern art, but Victoria tried to make him comfortable. I have been thinking about what you said, Victoria told him as they sat in comfortable chairs by the window, about how money and fame do not make someone more valuable. You are right, but I have never lived in a world where that was true. Marcus looked confused. What do you mean? Victoria was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I was born into wealth, Marcus. My great-grandfather started Sterling Industries over 100 years ago. My grandfather expanded it. My father grew it even more. By the time I was born, our family had more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. She stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the busy street below. Do you know what it is like to never be sure if people like you for yourself or for your money? Marcus had never thought about wealth as a burden. I guess I assumed rich people did not worry about things like that. When I was in college, Victoria continued, I thought I had real friends. But then I overheard some of them talking at a party. They were laughing about how they put up with boring Victoria, because she always paid for everything. They called me stupid and spoiled, but they smiled to my face because they wanted access to my family's money. Marcus felt sorry for Victoria, even though part of him thought she should be grateful for her advantages. That must have hurt. It did hurt, Victoria admitted. After that, I decided I would never let anyone use me again. I became hard and suspicious. I started treating people badly before they could treat me badly. I told myself that at least I was being honest about what I thought of them. She turned away from the window to face Marcus again. But what I was really doing was protecting myself by hurting others first. And that made me into someone cruel and selfish. Marcus understood better now why Victoria had been so mean to him at the hotel. You thought I was judging you, so you judged me first. Exactly, Victoria said. I saw a doorman and I immediately decided you were beneath me. I never considered that you might be a complex person with your own story and your own talents. During their third meeting, at a quiet coffee shop, Marcus shared more about his own struggles with identity and worth. When I was famous, Marcus told Victoria, I thought my value as a person came from my ability to play piano. People respected me and wanted to be around me because of my talent. After the accident, when I could not play anymore, I felt like I was nothing. Victoria listened carefully. She was learning that Marcus had his own complicated relationship with success and failure. Working as a doorman taught me something important, Marcus continued. It taught me that I could be useful and good to people even without being special or famous. When I opened doors for hotel guests, I was helping them have a better day. That had value, even if it was not the kind of value that gets written about in newspapers. But you are special, Victoria insisted. Your talent is extraordinary. Marcus shook his head. My talent is part of me, but it is not all of me. I am also someone who cares about his friends, who works hard, who tries to be kind to people even when they are not kind to me. Those things matter too. Victoria realized that Marcus had learned lessons about self-worth that she had never learned. Despite having every material advantage, she had never figured out how to value herself beyond her money and business success. During their fourth meeting, they talked about their families. Victoria shared that her relationship with her parents was difficult and distant. They are proud that I run the company successfully, she said, but I do not think they really know who I am as a person. We talk about business and money, but never about feelings or dreams or fears. Marcus told Victoria about his parents and how much he missed them. They worked so hard to give me opportunities they never had, he said. Even after they died, I felt like I had to succeed to honor their sacrifice. When I could not play piano professionally anymore, I felt like I had failed them. But you did not fail them, Victoria said gently. You used the discipline and work ethic they taught you to build a new life for yourself. That takes courage. It was during their 5th meeting that Victoria made an important admission. Marcus, she said, I need to tell you something. When I first offered to help restart your music career, I thought I was being generous and charitable, but now I realize I was still being selfish. Marcus looked surprised. What do you mean? I mean, I was trying to fix what I had done wrong so I could feel better about myself, Victoria explained. I wanted to be the rich person who discovered the hidden talent and saved the day. It would have been another way to make myself feel important. Victoria paused, looking uncomfortable. But getting to know you has made me realize that I do not want to be your savior or your patron. I want to be your friend. And friends help each other as equals, not because one person is more powerful than the other. Marcus was moved by Victoria's honesty. What does that mean for your offer to help my career? It means the offer still stands, Victoria said, but only if you want it and only on terms that feel right to you. It also means I want to learn from you as much as I help you. Learn what from me? Marcus asked. How to find worth in myself that does not depend on money or power or what other people think of me, Victoria said. You lost everything that defined you and still found a way to be content. I have everything society says should make me happy, but I have never learned how to be at peace with myself. Marcus understood what Victoria was asking for. She wanted to learn how to be human in a way that her wealth and privilege had never taught her. I can teach you what I learned, Marcus said, but you might not like all of it. Learning to value yourself for who you are instead of what you have or what you can do requires giving up some of the protection that money provides. What do you mean? Victoria asked. I mean, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, Marcus explained. You have to risk letting people see the real you, even if they might not like what they see. You have to care about others without expecting anything in return. You have to find ways to be useful that do not require your money or your power. Victoria thought about what Marcus was saying. It sounded both appealing and terrifying. Will you help me learn how to do that? She asked. Only if you help me learn how to be brave again, Marcus replied. I have spent 3 years hiding from the world and playing it safe. If I am going to return to music, I need to remember how to take risks and believe in myself. They shook hands across the coffee shop table, sealing their agreement to help each other grow. Over the following weeks, Victoria and Marcus spent more time together. Victoria started volunteering at a local music school, teaching business skills to young musicians who could not afford professional career guidance. It was the first time she had ever used her knowledge to help people without expecting anything in return. Marcus began practicing piano more regularly and started giving informal lessons to children in his neighborhood. Slowly, his confidence in his abilities grew stronger. They also spent time just talking and getting to know each other as people. Victoria learned that Marcus loved reading mystery novels and cooking simple meals. Marcus learned that Victoria had always wanted to paint, but had never tried because she was afraid she would not be good at it. One evening, as they walked through a park near Marcus's apartment, Victoria said something that surprised both of them. You know, Marcus, I think I understand now why that stupid promise I made has caused so much attention. Why? Marcus asked. Because people want to believe in stories where cruel, powerful people learn to be better, Victoria said. They want to believe that someone like me can change and that someone like you can get the recognition you deserve. Marcus nodded. People also want to believe that talent and goodness will eventually be rewarded, even if it takes time. The problem is, Victoria continued, our real story is more complicated than the simple version people want to hear. You are not just a poor person who deserves to be rescued, and I am not just a rich person who needs to be taught a lesson. We are both people trying to figure out how to be better than we were before, Marcus agreed. Victoria stopped walking and turned to face Marcus. I have something I want to ask you, and I want you to be completely honest with me. What is it? Marcus asked. Do you think we could ever be more than friends? Victoria asked. Not because of my stupid promise and not because it would make a good story, but because we genuinely care about each other. Marcus looked at Victoria carefully. She was beautiful, intelligent, and wealthy. Everything society said a man should want. But more importantly, she had become someone he respected and enjoyed spending time with. I think we could, Marcus said honestly. But I also think we both need to figure out who we are as individuals before we can figure out who we might be together. Victoria smiled. That sounds like a very wise answer. 6 months later, Marcus stood backstage at Carnegie Hall in New York City, the same venue where he had performed as a young rising star years earlier. But tonight felt different from all his performances in the past. He was no longer the anxious young man desperate to prove himself to the world. He was someone who had learned that his worth came from more than just his ability to play piano. His hands were steady as he adjusted his black concert jacket. The scars on his fingers were still visible, but they no longer embarrassed him. They were part of his story now, proof of what he had survived and overcome. Sarah Martinez stood nearby, having flown from their home city to attend his comeback concert. She was dressed in a beautiful blue dress that Victoria had helped her choose. "Are you nervous?" Sarah asked her friend. Marcus flexed his fingers and considered the question. "A little," he admitted. "But it is a good kind of nervous. The kind you feel when you are about to do something important that you really want to do." Through the curtain, Marcus could hear the concert hall filling with people. The audience tonight included music critics, classical music lovers, and many people who had followed his story since that day at the Grandview Hotel. Professor Williams was sitting in the front row with his wife. The hotel manager, who had given Marcus time off to prepare for this concert, was there with several other staff members. But Marcus was most aware of Victoria Sterling, who was sitting in a seat she had purchased like any other audience member. She had insisted on not using her connections or wealth to get special treatment tonight. "This is your moment," she had told Marcus. "I want to experience it the same way everyone else does." Over the past 6 months, Marcus and Victoria had both changed in ways neither had expected. Victoria had stepped back from some of her business responsibilities to focus on a new project, a foundation that provided financial support and career guidance to talented artists from working-class backgrounds. She had discovered that helping others pursue their dreams was more satisfying than any business deal she had ever made. Marcus had returned to music gradually, starting with small performances at local venues and music schools. Victoria had helped arrange some opportunities, but she had been careful to let Marcus make his own choices about his career path. He had worked with a physical therapist to strengthen his hands, and had practiced for hours each day to rebuild his technical abilities. But the most important change was in their relationship with each other. What had begun as mutual curiosity and an attempt to make amends had grown into genuine love and respect. They had learned to see each other as complete human beings, not as stereotypes or symbols of their different social classes. 3 months earlier, Marcus had asked Victoria to marry him, not because of her cruel challenge from the hotel lobby, but because he wanted to spend his life with the person she had become. Victoria had said yes, not because she felt guilty about her past behavior, but because Marcus had taught her what it meant to love someone for who they truly were. Their engagement had caused another media sensation, but this time the coverage was mostly positive. People seemed to understand that their relationship was real, built on mutual growth and genuine affection rather than social obligation or pity. A concert hall manager approached Marcus backstage. 5 minutes until showtime, Mr. Chen. Are you ready?" Marcus nodded and took a deep breath. He had chosen his program carefully for tonight. The first piece would be Chopin's Ballad No. 1, the same piece he had played at the hotel 6 months ago. But tonight it would sound different because he was different. The rest of his program included pieces by Bach, Beethoven, and Rachmaninoff, as well as a new composition he had written himself during his months of preparation. The new piece was about finding hope after loss, about learning that endings could also be beginnings. As Marcus walked onto the stage, the audience greeted him with warm applause. The concert hall was completely full. Nearly 3,000 people had come to hear him play. But Marcus was not intimidated by the size of the crowd. He had learned that whether he was playing for 3,000 people or for one person, the music itself was what mattered. He sat at the beautiful concert grand piano and adjusted the bench to the right height. The stage lights were bright, but he could see Victoria sitting in the audience, smiling at him with pride and love. Marcus placed his hands on the keys and began to play. The opening notes of the Chopin Ballade filled the concert hall with pure, clear sound. But this time, The music contained all the wisdom and depth he had gained through his struggles. Every phrase told the story of his journey from success to loss to healing to new hope. The audience listened in complete silence, absorbed in the beauty of what they were hearing. Music critics who had come prepared to judge whether Marcus was still worthy of his former reputation forgot about their professional analysis and simply enjoyed the emotional power of his performance. When Marcus finished the Chopin piece, the applause was thunderous, but he was just getting started. Each piece he played demonstrated different aspects of his musical growth. The Bach showed his technical precision. The Beethoven revealed his understanding of classical structure and emotion. The Rachmaninoff displayed his ability to handle the most demanding repertoire, but it was his own composition that moved the audience most deeply. The piece began with simple, hesitant notes that seemed to represent someone learning to walk again after an injury. Gradually, the music became more confident and complex, building to a climax that was both powerful and joyful. The final section was gentle and peaceful, suggesting someone who had found contentment not through avoiding difficulty, but by accepting and growing from it. When Marcus played the last note of his own composition, the concert hall was silent for several seconds. Then the entire audience rose to their feet, applauding and cheering with genuine enthusiasm. It was clear that they had witnessed something special, not just a successful comeback, but the artistic maturation of a truly gifted musician. Marcus stood and bowed to the audience, feeling a sense of completion he had never experienced during his earlier career. This time, he was not performing to prove anything to anyone. He was sharing music because he loved it, and because he knew it could bring beauty and meaning to other people's lives. After the concert, there was a small reception for friends and supporters. Victoria found Marcus as soon as he came off stage. "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard," she told him, tears of joy in her eyes. "I am so proud of you." Marcus kissed her gently. "I could not have done this without your help," he said. "Not just your financial support, but your friendship and your belief in me. And I could not have become the person I am now without learning from you," Victoria replied. "You taught me that real strength comes from being vulnerable, and real wealth comes from giving to others." Professor Williams approached them, beaming with excitement. "Marcus, my boy, that was magnificent. You have not just returned to your former level, you have surpassed it. You play with a depth and maturity that was not there before." Sarah Martinez joined their group, still wiping tears from her eyes. "I knew you were special," she told Marcus, "but I had no idea how special. That new piece you wrote made me cry." As the evening wound down, Marcus and Victoria stepped outside Carnegie Hall onto the busy New York City street. The marquee above them displayed Marcus's name in bright lights, just as it had during his first career years earlier. But this time, seeing his name up there felt different. "Do you know what the best part of tonight was?" Victoria asked as they walked hand in hand toward their hotel. "What?" Marcus replied. "The best part was that you were not performing to escape from your life as a doorman," Victoria said. "You were performing because music is part of who you are, not because you need it to feel valuable." Marcus nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "6 months ago, I thought I had to choose between being a doorman or being a pianist. Now I know that I am both. I am someone who can create beautiful music and someone who treats all people with respect regardless of their job or social status. And I have learned that I can be both wealthy and kind," Victoria added. "I can use my advantages to help others without looking down on them or trying to control them." They walked in comfortable silence for a while, both thinking about how much their lives had changed since that confrontational day at the Grandview Hotel. "Victoria," Marcus said eventually, "I want to ask you something important." Victoria looked at him with curiosity. "What is it?" Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her under a street lamp. "When we get married next month, I want to make sure we both understand what we are promising each other." "I think we do understand," Victoria said softly. "I hope so," Marcus replied. "Because I am not marrying you because of your money or your family's business empire. I'm marrying you because you had the courage to admit when you were wrong and the strength to change yourself into someone better. Victoria felt tears forming in her eyes again. And I am marrying you not because you are a talented musician, but because you showed me what real dignity looks like. You treated me with kindness even when I was cruel to you. You taught me that how we treat people says more about us than our accomplishments or our bank accounts.